man has been trapped in hell for a full 20 years. During these 20 years, the dust in the air has killed him nearly 8,000 times. He barely turned himself into a poison, becoming immune to the toxicity. Then a group of mosquitoes bigger than rats sucked him dry countless times, using his own toxic blood as sustenance. Xian Wu has lost track of how many mosquitoes he's killed. Finally, when he revived this time, the system notified him. Congratulations, you've killed 100 million mosquitoes. His poison blood ability increased and a new skill was unlocked. Decomposed Xian Wu picked up a nearby wooden bench to test it. With a crack, the bench was torn apart into pieces. This skill would definitely be useful for demolition. But if there's deconstruction, wouldn't it be better to have a crafting skill too? He didn't expect the system to actually give him a crafting skill. So he quickly collected a bunch of hell mosquitoes. After decomposing them, he got various wings. Then he used the crafting skill. A hell boomerang was crafted. And it was a rare quality item. If he brought it back to reality, it would be a limited edition item. Suddenly Xian Wu had a brilliant idea. Since he wouldn't use up all the remaining materials, he decided to mix everything together and craft. Then an absurd scene occurred. Bodies of the mosquitoes somehow formed an egg. The comic author really has an imagination. The system then notified him. Achievement unlocked. Created a legendary item. Ability greatly enhanced. However, this egg is very mysterious. It has a 50% chance to survive or perish. It can only be hatched under specific conditions. Xian Wu thought carefully for a moment. Could it be asking me to hatch it myself? At that moment a loud sound came from behind him. He turned around to see a goblin searching for prey. It spotted Xian Wu hiding behind cover. The goblin immediately jumped forward. In one swift motion it nearly cleaved the main character in half. Xian Wu wasn't going to back down and summoned a wooden stick to retaliate. But when he checked the goblin's level, it was 20. Wasn't that a bit overpowered? The goblin lunged forward with a smooth combo. Xian Wu could only desperately dodge. A moment of carelessness could cost him his life. Soon Xian Wu's stamina was running low. He quickly took out the hell boomerang and threw it with all his might. The goblin looked at its poisoned right hand. Then it suddenly raised its cleaver. With one strike it chopped off its own arm. Xian Wu was stunned. This guy's gone crazy. While Xian Wu was in a daze, the goblin instantly leapt behind him. Then with a thunderous crescent slash it killed Xian Wu. Who would have thought that this little creature had regeneration abilities? Before leaving, the goblin sneered and mocked. Are there any survivors left? Too bad. Xian Wu gave an eerie smile on the ground. A goblin, huh? Wait until I revive, I'll deal with you first. He had been trapped and died for a full 20 years battling non-stop. In those 20 years, he had experienced countless cycles of death and rebirth. Finally, after this revival, the system popped up with a notification. Successfully survived the first night in Die Reward upgrade. The silver box changed to a golden box. Activation of Return Stone complete. 14 days until the next mission. As the necklace emitted dazzling light, he was back. It felt as though the pouring rain was welcoming his return. At that moment Xian Wu was overwhelmed with emotion. He knelt down shouting, "I'm home. I've finally come home." He then violently tore off the necklace, furiously about to smash it on the spot. But then he thought for a moment. After all these valuable treasures and skills were obtained in Dai, he could only force himself to suppress his anger and stop. This time outside the door Yumin noticed that Xian Wu was here. She quickly rushed to give him a coat. "If you get magic poison you'll be done for." The two returned to the room. Yumin kindly prepared toiletries for him. After the bath Xian Wu asked about the current date. To his surprise, today was only the 11th. That meant the 20 years in hell were equivalent to just 2 days in the real world. Xian Wu was still thinking about it. Meanwhile Yumin watched with great interest. Since when did his body become so fit? She then prepared to go out and buy him clothes. "Stay here and don't move." After Yumin left, Xian Wu summoned his inventory. He opened the golden box inside. Suddenly a ding sound rang, and thanks to his sulfur monosulfide level lucky title, the reward upgraded once again. "Congratulations, you have obtained the legendary skill, Combat Assistant." Xian Wu was immediately excited upon hearing it was a legendary skill. You see, only 7 people in the world have a legendary skill. And now the 8th legendary skill holder has been born. Then Xian Wu decided to test the skill's effect. But he was caught by Yumin right in the act. Embarrassed, he began fidgeting. After some small talk, Xian Wu learned that Yumin was studying crystal moss. Xian Wu replied, "That's perfect. I have a big treasure to show you." He then took out a kilogram of crystal moss. Yumin was instantly shocked, her expression changing. "Wow, such a large piece of crystal moss. And the purity is so high. Where did you get this from?" Xian Wu didn't reveal where he got it from. Was it important? He changed the subject, asking Yumin to help him sell it. They would split the profits later. After all, there's plenty of this stuff. Yu Min was moved to tears. Why are you so nice to me? With that settled, Xian Wu was about to leave for home. But Yu Min suddenly stopped him. Stay here tonight. The next morning arrived. Xian Wu, holding the pillow with a reluctant expression, mumbled to himself, this woman is terrifying. This man just came back from Dai. And now he's been tutored by a female colleague all night. That night's lesson made Xian Wu realize. Turns out the monsters in hell are nothing compared to women. Soon the deal for the crystal moss was ready. The two headed to the trading spot. Xian Wu was extremely cautious, fearing any unexpected incidents. But to his surprise he turned around and saw a burly, menacing man. Upon closer inspection, it was none other than the towering Ma Dong Sok. He thought the trader was Ma Dong Sok. But actually it was an elderly man reading nearby. It was just a false alarm. After introductions were made, after shaking hands with the elderly man, Xian Wu felt clearly that this person's strength was extraordinary. He took out the crystal moss. The trade was made at the agreed price. After the trade was completed, the elderly man specifically bid farewell to Xian Wu. Xian Wu shuddered instantly. It turned out he had already noticed the true owner of the crystal moss. Yu Min teased him from the side. How was it, Kay? The trade went smoothly, right? Next time don't be so suspicious. Relax a bit. Look at this one-time income of 680,000 Y. It's so sweet. The scene shifted. At that moment the elderly man was reporting the situation to a mysterious man. The man seemed curious. How could such an important treasure appear in the market? The elderly man replied, this purity of crystal moss only exists in dungeons of level 5 stars or higher. This person's strength is definitely extraordinary. The man, even more curious now, said, have the elderly man investigate this person's background. The elderly man nodded. No problem, leave it to me, Captain Li Jitai. A few days later, Xian Wu returned to DY. After several trips back and forth, he finally understood the time pattern between DY and the real world. But there was one thing he still couldn't figure out. Why does the location keep changing when I return to reality? Xian Wu opened the Combat Assistant skill panel. To his surprise, the skill description appeared. It turned out this skill could record and control enemy movements. Not only could it predict the enemy's attack direction, but it could also correct his own attack accuracy. This wasn't just an assistant. It was practically a personal cheat code. Suddenly a system notification popped up and a new task started. Please go and kill 5 beginner scarecrows. How terrifying is a self-disciplined man. Even though he was in Dai, he still did 3,000 pull-ups every day, ran 50 kilometers, and trained in boxing for 8 hours. But because his strength grew too quickly, the sandbag finally couldn't withstand his daily beating. It shattered open, and that's when Xian Wu realized that this ordinary amount of training was no longer enough for him. He needed more intense training. Suddenly the system prompted, weak new task started. Please go and kill 5 scarecrows. Xian Wu instantly exploded in anger. I'm already level 7, why are you still treating me like a beginner? He then prepared to set out for the destination. Arriving at the entrance, Xian Wu felt a chill down his spine. It looked so eerie here. It didn't seem like a beginner task at all. And these things in front of him were not scarecrows at all. They were clearly a group of tin can monsters. If they suddenly moved, it would be too terrifying. Frightened, Xian Wu quickly hid. But after observing for a while, he realized these robots weren't moving at all. Now that Xian Wu wasn't afraid anymore, he walked right up to the robots. He punched the tin can's head with all his strength. However, the punch didn't even scratch them, and it activated all of them. The robots spoke in unison. Battle target identified. Initiating equal trial. This is bad. These tin can robots were matched to the same level as Xian Wu. These guys were impressive in both attack and speed. Soon Xian Wu was being pushed back, losing ground. But this only fueled Xian Wu's fighting spirit. He grinned. You tin can guys are finished. Xian Wu switched to serious mode. He focused intensely, carefully analyzing every gap in the enemy's defense. He wouldn't miss any opportunity. Clearly Xian Wu's attacks were starting to have an effect. But the real terrifying trial was just beginning. Battle target information updated. Initiating level 2 equal trial. The next second Xian Wu was tightly locked by the tin can robots. He could only endure their various beatings. But at the same time his attributes were rapidly improving. After hours of painful torture, Xian Wu couldn't hold on any longer. He collapsed to the ground. He could clearly feel his internal organs had completely shattered. But to Xian Wu this was nothing. He stared at the hated tin can robots. Slowly standing up, his hands crackled with dazzling lightning. Then he summoned his exclusive weapon that he crafted himself, the vicious square wood. It was rare quality, had weak durability, but its attack power was extremely strong. Xian Wu swung the square wood forward. He slammed it hard into the tin can robot. To his surprise, the blow was incredibly powerful. It actually knocked off one of its arms. The robot looked at its severed limb. then said, "Battle target information updated again. Initiating level 3 equal trial." Xian Wu was completely stunned. "It's over. This time I'm really done for. These are die robots that are even more terrifying than Iron Man. They evolve based on their opponent's strength. In other words, if you're strong, they're strong too." Xian Wu was no match for them. The level 3 equal trial was completely beyond his abilities. He could only use some tricks to survive. He decided to tie them up together. Only then in a one-on-one he had a chance. After several cycles of death and rebirth, Xian Wu's strength skyrocketed. With his battle spirit high, he continued to attack. The tin can monsters were battered and bruised. All he had to do was smash the core, and he could completely defeat them. At the moment Xian Wu raised his fist. Battle target information updated again. Initiating level 4 equal trial. Xian Wu didn't strike. He liked fighting powerful opponents, because this was how he would get stronger. However, he overestimated himself. After the battle he realized he was no match for the tin can monsters. He was completely crushed by them. There was no chance for a counterattack, and he was forced to experience various difficult death methods. Xian Wu was completely numb. "How come you know every martial art? But this is the best. Let's keep going." Xian Wu launched himself forward. He threw a straight punch, but it was easily dodged. He quickly adjusted his stance. With a high kick he slammed it into the tin can monster. This kick caused the tin can monster to update its battle target info. Initiating level 5 equal trial. Xian Wu was extremely excited. But the next second, the tin can monster's finger shot toward his eyes. It hurt so much that Xian Wu rolled on the ground screaming. But that wasn't all. The tin can monster opened its mouth and lunged. It bit down hard. It sank its teeth into his calf. Xian Wu was stunned. "Are you a zombie or a robot?" Xian Wu unlocked another bizarre death method. After 90 cycles of death, Xian Wu's strength had completely leveled up. Now these tin can monsters no longer posed any threat to him. Even if they all rushed at him, he could easily take them all down. At this point the system notification popped up. Practice session completed. But Xian Wu had no intention of stopping. He was furiously beating up the tin can monsters. He didn't stop until they were all smashed to pieces. Xian Wu threw his head back and roared. All the accumulated anger poured out at this moment. This scene was incredibly satisfying. Suddenly he remembered he hadn't checked the task reward. He opened his inventory, and found a shining card. It was labeled Cradle of Heaven, but when he looked closer, the card turned into a lonely rag. Ding! The system notification sounded. Obtained Cradle of Heaven legendary item is damaged. It can promote growth and restore damaged bodies. Hearing this Xian Wu had an idea. "I have that egg I got from the mosquitoes last time. Let's try it with that egg. This is a magical cloth that promotes the growth of all things. And this is a bastard created from the bodies of countless mosquitoes. What kind of creature will be born when these two weird things combine?" An hour passed in the blink of an eye. But nothing happened. Just as Xian Wu was about to put the rag away, there was a sudden cracking sound. The egg shell cracked, accompanied by a dazzling light. A cute white-haired girl appeared before him. The girl opened her eyes. She lazily wiped her eyes and let out a delicate sneeze. Seeing the cute mosquito girl in front of him, Xian Wu cautiously extended his hand. To his surprise, the girl suddenly bit his hand. Xian Wu was instantly covered in goosebumps. He quickly shook her off, sending her flying. It felt just like when you're sleeping in bed, and suddenly a cockroach crawls over to your pillow. The girl slowly got up, pouting as she said, "I'm so hungry." Xian Wu sighed. He handed her a piece of candy. The girl glanced at it and shook her head. She then pointed at him, and Xian Wu understood, thinking to himself, "This little thing is definitely a monster that eats people." Then, without knowing where she got it from, she pulled out a straw. She started drinking his blood. Surprisingly, she politely licked it clean afterward. But the next second the girl started getting a bit too cheeky. She claimed that Xian Wu was her slave, and demanded he offer her desserts. Xian Wu couldn't tolerate that. He grabbed her, wanting to crush her on the spot. The girl immediately backed down, saying, Sorry, I was just joking." Xian Wu didn't hold a grudge. But when he asked her what she really meant, the girl choked up. She was visibly upset. Xian Wu joked, "So you're just a mosquito demon, right?" Suddenly the girl remembered her true identity. She told Xian Wu, "I'm the demon who devoured all living creatures on the day of the apocalypse." Upon hearing this, Xian Wu instantly felt a chill run down his spine. He thought to himself, "Should I just kill her now? But this little thing doesn't seem to have any hostility toward me. Maybe I'll just educate her later." So he decided to keep her as a pet. He even gave her a name, Renayan. The girl immediately expressed that she liked the name. But just then, the tin can monsters that had been knocked down all got up. They started walking towards Xian Wu. Renean saw this and flew over delivering a small punch. She crushed the head of a tin can monster with one hit. Xian Wu was stunned. Wow, she's so fierce. But actually these tin can monsters weren't hostile. They all pointed toward the nearby ruins. Xian Wu walked over and cleared some debris. He found a skeleton lying there. There was a letter pinned beneath it. He opened the envelope. Inside it contained a message about things that would happen in the future of the real world.